Okay, so this is going to be part two of Getting Unstuck series. And it's basically going to be dealing, again, we're just continuing the conversation about how do I got in, now how do I get out? And I just had some technical difficulty and everything just completely ended, but we're going to pick back up here. Thank you guys for rejoining. I'm determined I am going to keep doing it. So, but anyway, I was just saying that, those experiences that we have, just a quick recap in case someone picks up here and didn't see the first part. We opened up with a song by Bishop Paul Morton called I Am What You See. And our scriptural reference was Jeremiah 1:5 and Isaiah 43:4. And we were just talking about, where healthy relationships begin. And not only that, we began to talk about two terms one called limerence, which I'll give you the definition in case you want to write it down. But it's called overwhelming attraction and excitement, sense of newfound happiness. And it's a rush of attachment hunger. And then you have attachment hunger, which is an emotional reminiscence of a much earlier time. We forget experiences, but the feelings attached to them are alive. So those are two terms I kind of want everybody to remember: limerence and attachment hunger. And that's what we're talking about tonight is, how did I get where I am? And we're not going to focus so much on how I got where I am as much as we're going to talk about how do I get out of where I am? How do I get out? And so what I want to talk about right now is I want to kind of continue and pick up with one of the things I shared was Dorothy. And we talked about how her experience, she had it within her all the time to return home, to return to her safe place. And then they asked the good witch, they said, well, why didn't you tell me? And she says, you wouldn't have believed me, And when I think about that, that's us, that's the way we are, it is so synonymous with the way our lives are sometimes, that we have to go through particular processes. We have to go through certain experiences to teach us. And when you get into that, you want to think about, those experiences, they shape us. Okay. And that's where we are now. We're talking about how when we were younger, those experiences that we had and our dynamics and our families and things like that, we are definitely talking about how those things impact our lives, how they shape the way we are, how they shape the way we see ourselves, how they shape the way we see others, And one of the things we want to remember is, when you're talking about being attracted to someone else, one of the things I read earlier was you need to bring your whole self to the table. And that's important. You want to bring your whole self to the table, not a piece of you, but you want to bring your whole self to the table. What does that mean? It means that we have to do the work, and the best way to do the work is to do the work with the one who created us. Yes, I'm back, Brittany. But the best way to do the work is with the one who created you. The best way to figure out who you are and find out, about yourself is to connect by having a relationship with the Lord. And as we come to know who the Lord is, he begins to reveal to us who we are. And as he reveals to us who we are, we can begin to clearly define and break cycles. We can break patterns when we know who the Lord is. And then when we come to understand who we are. And so what we want to do, tonight is just to talk about that, how history impacts us. But then, what do I do with my history? What do I do with my history? And so regardless of what your upbringing was, regardless of what your experiences were as a child, we might forget the experiences, but we do not forget the feelings. We don't forget how they made us feel. So as we go on into adulthood, what we find is that we are still attached to those feelings. We are still attached to those ideals. We're still attached to those paradigms. And even when they no longer serve us, we're still attached to them. And so what will happen is the law of attraction. We'll begin to attract those same things, those same themes into our lives. And that's where we want to pick up tonight is in order for me not to keep attracting the same thing into my life, I really need to sit down. I need to sit down. I need to be still for a minute. I need to sit with the things that make me uncomfortable. And I need to figure out, hey, what work do I need to do? And last time we had a catchy slogan, and one of my friends said I need to coin it and put it on a shirt. But we said, you got to check your baggage. We have to check our baggage. I don't care what we go into. We bring ourselves everywhere we go. So you can change jobs, you can change relationships, you can change whatever it is. You can change hairstyles. We take us wherever we go. And the thing is if we don't deal with us, everywhere we go, we're going to get the same result. Life is going to keep giving us what we put out. And also life will keep giving us the test for what we need to deal with. You understand what I'm saying? It's not like you can get in a geometry class. I'll make it even simpler. A math class. You can't go on to doing like polynomials and algebra stuff if you can't multiply and divide. And God knows if you can't add, you don't need to go nowhere near algebra. You know what I'm saying? But hey, that's the kind of stuff that we do. We tend to want to put the cart before the horse. We tend to think that, hey, it's okay. It's cool, not checking our baggage. But guess what? We do have to sit down, sit still, and we have to check our bags. Okay. And that's just the repeat of last week. We have to check our bags, and we have to get real honest about, where I went wrong. Okay. Where's there something wrong with my logic, And like I said, I remember I used to go when I was married. That was me. I was going to all the, Barnes and Nobles and stuff. And I called it my self-help days. And I was going to all these things, but most of the time my focus was on trying to figure out how I was going to fix my husband at that time. That was my focus. And it was also on trying to figure out what was wrong with him or what was wrong with our marriage. I was so focused on the marriage, that I was so neglecting the work that I needed to do. It was easier for me to pretty much feed the distraction. Okay. And I read something earlier. It was basically saying is, that I need you to stay broken. I need you to stay, I need chaos. Okay. So that I can feel, needed. So that you won't leave me. If I create a need for me, you won't leave me. But see, here's the thing. There's some needs that even we can't satisfy. All right. And you can deal with certain things in a marriage or in a relationship with a person where you'll come to find that they're just certain needs. And now I see why that previous broadcast ended, because I feel led to go a different way. So here's what I want us to understand. There's just some needs we can't satisfy. We talked about earlier that attachment hunger, and that's what I feel really strongly on me right now. Is there's a hunger in us. It's something, we want to fix. We want to fix somebody. We want to save somebody. We want to rescue somebody. We want somebody to be better because of us. We're afraid to be alone. And so as a result of it, hey, that's okay. I know you're broken. I know you have a drug problem. I know you have, you're irresponsible with money, and God knows every 5 minutes, we worry about something getting cut off. But hey, those are the kinds of situations we find ourselves in. I know you're careless, and every time I turn around, you can't keep your stuff in your, I probably shouldn't say that. Don't leave me, saints. Don't leave me. I'm going to be real candid, but with all respect, if you can't keep your stuff together, and you're out here, what I mean? You're hot in the hind part. And I'm trying to keep you from doing this stuff every time, because guess what? You could lose your job. You could lose this. You could lose that. Who's that stuff going to affect? That's going to affect me. So what I am doing is I'm damage control, all the while not realizing just how sick I'm becoming, just how broken I am. And see, that just doesn't happen in romantic relationships. That happens, period. Again, we create a need for ourselves, and then people start draining us dry, and we're mad at them. Why are you resentful? You created the scenario. You created the dynamic. The only way the dynamic's going to change if you stop playing that part. You understand what I'm saying? You can't say I don't want to be Cinderella anymore if you keep showing up in a Disney dress and shoes, glass slippers. I can't tell you don't want to be Cinderella anymore. And that's how it is with the people that we're involved with. We say these things, but we're not, they don't see any, they don't really see any earnest money. They don't see any real effort saying, hey, look, you know what? She's done. She's done. He's done. There, this is it. I either am going to have to step up to the plate, level up, or I'm going to have to leave the scene. Step up to the plate, level up, or leave the scene. And that's what goes back to, the comment I made earlier about healthy relationships. Again, it says the freedom to love through choice and caring commitment rather than being compelled by your own dependence. Unfortunately, we do become so dependent. We become so dependent. And God, I can just empathize because I say we are you get tired, but just not tired enough. And now it's okay. I understand it. But just go back to what I said about Dorothy. Just remember, you have what you need all the while to go home. To declare this deal is sealed. This is done. I'm done. I'm closing the book. This is over. Even if I don't mean it yet, this is over. I've had enough. Take off that dress. Take off those glass slippers. Stop playing the part and decide, you know what? The real work begins with me. And that's where we're talking tonight. That's our talking point for tonight. The real work begins with me. And I'm going to read a couple of comments that somebody said. It's so easy to point out what someone else is doing wrong rather than dealing with the drama we bring ourselves. And that is so true. It is. It's easier because it really makes us uncomfortable. But see, what about, I don't know what movie it was, but somebody, it was like the husband was either an alcoholic or something. And the husband was saying, and she was telling him, you just got to change. And this is enough. I've had enough. I can't do this anymore. And then he said, you just can't expect me to change like that. He said, I've been like this forever. And then he says, I'm used to you doing this and you doing that, And so I keep doing what I do because you let me do it. Again, we create those dynamics. So now what I want to challenge us to think about is, where have you seen that at? Where else did you see that? If you think about the feeling you have when maybe someone, when a man mistreats you, or a woman mistreats you, think about how it makes you feel. If you're one of those people when a person cheats, immediately you want to fix the relationship and you feel sorry for them. That came from somewhere. That's called codependence, but it came from somewhere. So again, going back to this, those experiences that we have, we may forget them, but we don't forget how they make us feel. So sometimes, again, when we don't do the work, we keep replaying these same things. And so when you say you experienced a lot of rejection growing up, or maybe a father or someone wasn't involved in your life, and so there's always maybe that wondering, or there's always that sense of what will my life be like, had that person been involved, or had that person been in my life, so there's always that, that longing. Chances are when you find a person, or you connect with a person in your life, it'll kind of almost be where you're afraid. Is this real? Is this believable? Are you dependable? Can I count on you? You understand what I'm saying? Why? You might not remember the things that happened. You may not remember feeling like that as a child. But guess what? Those emotions, they don't go anywhere. That stuff, it stays with us. And then so you wonder, a person comes into your life, they're decent. As soon as you see a flaw, first thing you do, you're ready to book it. Okay? Can anybody relate to that? You see a flaw, you're immediately ready to book it. You're ready to go. I can't do this. He's just like this person. Or I don't know why this makes me so uncomfortable. Sit with that though. Why does that make you so uncomfortable? Okay? We get on, we get ourselves in other situations. All right. And we find that, because we have this longing, for acceptance and affirmation. If we find ourselves in a situation where we are saying, hey, okay, I can do this. This is awesome. I'm excited about it, and then all of a sudden it's like the desire just starts to change. I can't be settled. I can't be settled. I was good. Like what happened to me? I was good with this. And I think this happens a lot to men. And a lot of times I think a man, it'll make it easier for him he'll just maybe either he might entertain other things or he might leave. Whereas a woman, especially if children are involved, she'll just stay and be miserable. We'll just stay and tough it out. Okay. But all the while, look into what was that? What's causing me to be unsettled? Now, what are the facts? So you put the facts out there. Is the person available? Not just available physically, but available emotionally. Are they contributing to our marriage? Are they contributing to our relationship? Are they contributing to our household? Are they doing more taking than giving? Like, these are the real questions that you ask. Are they showing up? And then when you think about that, okay, and you sit with that and you say, all right, so all the ducks are not necessarily in a row, but I know that I have a good situation here. I know that I'm with someone that's good for me. I know I'm on a good job. I know I'm in a good place. So what is this, that causes me to feel unsettled, and that is where you have to sit down and be still and think about, wait a minute. Is this familiar? And see, unfortunately, this is where sometimes, I know they have tools like hypnosis and things like that, but sometimes they're not able to really help us to get to the root all the time. This is why we need the Holy Spirit. Because what I know for me is there's some things that I probably don't remember, but I do know that maybe a recurring theme or a certain feeling or something just comes up. Or when people do a certain things, it sets me off, or something like that. You know what? I have to sit down with it and say, okay, where is this coming from? That's where the Lord helps me. And he will do that with you as well, because he knows us better than anyone else because he's our creator. Okay. He also knows why he created you. And if he did not, sometimes you just get a wave, and I just got one. So listen to this. If the Lord knows that you were not created for that, he's going to do everything in his power to make you uncomfortable. I'm going to say that again. If the Lord knows us, okay? If he knows that you were not created for that, he's going to do everything in his power to make that thing or person make you uncomfortable. That thing should drive us back to our creator, who then defines for us whether we are on task, on track, or not. But most of the time, that is not what happens. We get these uncomfortable feelings. We start to have these recurring thoughts, these emotions that come up. And what we do is we stuff it. We tuck it away, we minimize it, and guess what? It ain't going nowhere. It goes back to what I said last time. That stuff is going to stay in the forefront. It's going to stay in the forefront until it's dealt with. Okay? And so that's why we have to get real honest and say, man, I'm supposed to like this, but I really don't. I should love this person, but I really don't. I should be happy here, but I'm really not. See, that's the real work. And then you go back. And again, I want to clarify, because not everything that makes us uncomfortable means we need to book it now. Because there are some things that make us uncomfortable because it means that those things become a stimulus for us to change. But I'm talking about in those situations where we know we're out of alignment. We know this no longer serves me. We know that, hey, I'm in something I don't need to be in. This is unhealthy. I know that I am not at my best when I am with this person. That's where you can't be afraid to admit that. Because again, like I said, if the Lord knows that you were not created for that, he would do everything in his power to make that thing make you uncomfortable enough to drive you back to him so that he can reroute us, and get us on the journey called life. You know? The one that leads us to wholeness. And then when we get out of it, we can't go out and blaming. We can't go in and say, hey, it was the other person, or, they did this, like I did that too. Yeah, they had issues. They had problems. But the best thing you can do for yourself is to sit down and to say, what made me think or feel that I needed that in my life? Why was I so willing to give up everything to have it? That's where we are tonight. The real work begins with us. Sit down, think about those things. What are some of the triggers? Give me some feedback. What are some of your triggers? Things that keep coming up. And sometimes they come up in dreams, Sometimes they come up in dreams. But I want to hear from somebody. Okay, somebody says, I couldn't understand why I couldn't connect. Okay. Anybody else? So what we understand here is, if you felt like you had a problem to connect, and that was a constant thing, the first thing you have to do is look at yourself. Is there something in you, something unhealed, something you've not dealt with that's causing you to have a wall or a barrier? Because see, another person can't fix that. Another person cannot fix that. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that we do the work we need to do first. Let's do the work we need to do on us. And don't turn the focus outward. Don't turn the focus on the other person, but just focus on ourselves, And that's the thing. And also sometimes it has nothing to do with there being anything wrong with you. In some cases, when you can't connect with a person, it's because maybe you're not meant to. Maybe you're not meant to connect with them. And that's the thing. If something in us is telling us, oh no, you should. See, there are a lot of shoulds. You should. Then with that, you're going to find yourself in situations that you're not being authentic. We're not being authentic. Okay. So I want to kind of wrap it up. And I want us to start thinking about not just how did I get where I am, but how do I start making the choices that will lead me in the direction that I'm trying to go in. That will lead me in the direction that I'm trying to go in. So we have to sit and we have to do the work. We have to sit. We have to be honest about where we are, about how we feel. We have to think about some of those experiences. Allow the Lord to bring some of those things up that we keep wanting to bury. Allow him to bring some of that stuff up. Now, it's one thing when we bury it and it's a once and for all and it's done, like meaning the Lord has healed it. That's fine. But I'm talking about when we have stuff that we have not dealt with and we want to bury it. That's what I'm talking about tonight. So again, when we go back to the scripture, before I formed you before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you. I knew you. And he basically is saying that he set us apart. I already knew you and I set you apart. You were born for a particular purpose. Okay. Even then. So as we go throughout our life, he entrusts us to parents, then he entrusts us to teachers, he entrusts us to colleges and things like that. And we grow up and we become, we develop all these mindsets and all of this stuff like that. God doesn't always have to do with everything that we hear. Every philosophy is not God. Everything we believe is not necessarily God. So what we want to do is we want to sit down and we want to think, Lord, you know what? I open myself up to you. And I want you to begin to just show me those things in me, those areas in my where maybe I kind of got off course. Begin to show me those things, begin to show me where I lost my way, where I lost sight of who you were. Begin to show me, where I got it twisted about my identity and who I was and what made me valuable, what made me special or whatever, what made me feel a sense of belonging. Like, where did I get off? Show it to me, Lord. And then when you show it to me, begin to empower me to make those shifts, not just mentally, but to begin to make gradual shifts in my choices so that with that, the new choices that I'll make, those choices will lead me to the road called life. And that's what this is about tonight. We don't want to be Dorothy, who we're sitting around all now just wasting time. We've got the power right now. You have the power. You have the power. And so we don't want to be that, We want to constantly be checking in with God. Constantly be checking in with God. Constantly. Lord, okay, you know what? Show me this, show me that, because I don't want to be walking around here having to go all the way down the yellow brick road, having to kill a witch, steal the broomstick, then go back to Oz, and then have to deal with the crazy lion and scarecrow and all that stuff like that, just to figure out what is meant for me. Good, that's a good point. What is meant for me? Like, no. Show me, Lord. Let me constantly be checking in with you, and you show me where maybe I'm off. Help me to stay on track. Let those things make me uncomfortable that are not for my life, that are not suitable for my life. Let those things make me uncomfortable. And then reveal to me the things that you've intentionally caused in my life, to make me uncomfortable so that I will change, so that I will transition. You understand what I'm saying? So that I will grow and develop. Everything's not meant for us to run from. But only the Lord can help us to know the difference. And he gives us our emotions for a reason. When you're around a person and that person causes you to feel just uptight and tense and depressed and sad and just anxious, there's a reason. There's a reason. So we want to sit down, we want to do the work so that, hey, those of us that will be starting again, whether it's in a relationship or whether you're building a career or rebuilding one, a business or something, we want to sit down with the Lord, check in with him, let him show us. He says, I know the plans that I have for you. So let the Lord reveal those things to us so that we can move forward, but be intentional about it. And then as we're going along, let him help us to do the work so that we are not wandering aimlessly, but we can do the work. We can do the work. And you know what? We can allow those things that are put in our lives to develop us and to grow us. We can be still. We can sit down. We can rest in the Lord and allow him to walk us through those things. Okay. And then those things that he has not called us to, that he's allowing to make us uncomfortable, to cause us to feel all of these weird emotions. Okay. Weird, but valid. Feel these emotions and these things. Guess what? Let those things provoke us to change. I said that before. Let it make me mad enough to change it. Let it make me mad enough to change it. Okay? And so I want to just say to you, just to be encouraged tonight, just knowing that, again, this is a journey. This is not a once and for all. And like I said, as these things come to me, I'm going to be sharing them, and it'll get bigger and better. It'll grow. Really, I care more about you getting the message. I'll work on all the technical things and tie up those loose ends. But, it's really about me just wanting the Lord to allow the Lord to use my voice, because there was a point where I really just wanted to hide. I was humiliated. And remember, we talked about last time, that's a choice. That has a lot to do with your ego. And your perception about the things you've experienced. But I was really in a place where I just wanted to hide. I didn't want to be out front. I sing, I do all those things, but I really didn't want to be out front, but I had to be. Sometimes the Lord will create a need. So I had to be out front, but I didn't want to be. I wanted to hide, I felt like, who wanted to hear me? What I had to come to understand is that we need to change our definition of having it all together. I don't even know that exists. But if it does, we need to really just think about the pressure that sometimes we put on ourselves and we put on people to look a certain way, to talk a certain way, to act a certain way. You got to have all your ducks in a row. And you know what? That scripture says, as they went, they were healed, meaning some people don't get healed instantaneously, or they don't get healed right away. Sometimes we have to do what? Go, and we'll be healed on the way. As you're going, you're going to be healed. And I believe that's really who I'm called to. Maybe some of you will hear this message and that'll be it. And then some of you may hear it, and you may have to hear it a couple of times, and then you may hear this message, and then it might be 3 or 4 years later and you hearing it, and then you're finally able to connect with it and really apply it. But it doesn't matter. Your process is your process. Your journey is your journey. Don't let anybody define it for you except for the Lord. Okay? Be proactive, and take responsibility for yourself. Take your life back. Okay? And just never underestimate what the Lord can do through you. Never underestimate what the Lord can do through you. He can do such powerful things with our weaknesses. He can do such powerful things with the things we feel like have so negatively defined us. He can do so much. So don't let anybody, tell you what, how you should look. And, I keep referencing that, and saying, I hear people saying, level up, level up, level up. And that's true. That's a great concept. But you know what? We need to make it less intimidating to grow. If you walk into years ago, my dad and I, as a family, we went to, I think it was a Zig Ziglar conference or something. And then they had this other one break out. It's like a real estate thing. And they were doing this big thing, and you had to pay this big lump sum of money. And, and we had to pay this big lump sum of money. And once you paid that money or whatever, they were going to show you how to flip properties and things like that, but it was like they were talking it. And you know what made us believe we could do it? It's because they made it appealing. They made it seem possible. And that's what we have to do for people that are really trusting God for change. People that are really trying to break cycles and break patterns. Don't make it seem so intimidating. You got to do this. You got to do that. You know what? Let me tell you something. As I said, as they went, they were healed. Sometimes, you know what? One miracle is in one step and your next miracle is in the next. That's how it is. One chain at a time. Everybody's chains don't all fall off. Sometimes it's just one link at a time. One link at a time. So let the Lord do it for you however he wants to do it for you. And don't let people put limitations on you. I think it was one of the things from the Black Panther movie. Don't let people put limitations on you. Let the Lord do for you what he needs to do for you and through you his way and his timing. Dorothy had, yes, Brittany, Dorothy had what she needed the entire time. And so do we. We can come home anytime. But you know what? We cannot minimize the road home, though. It may take a journey, and it might be a tough process getting back home. But we already know, guess what? We can get home. That's the most important part. I will lift up my eyes to the hills from which cometh my help. Why? All of my help comes from the Lord. All of my help comes from the Lord. I want to be hidden in him. And this goes to one of the comments one of my friends just made also is, you know what? If I work on myself and being whole and allowing the Lord, like I said, to walk me through my own journey and my own process, and I'm not so overly concerned with whatever the labels people want to put on me and all of that. And you know what? I'm found being genuine and in my most authentic state. And I don't even know that if we really achieve our most authentic state until we die, because we are always growing. I'm always coming, finding skeletons. I'm always finding something about myself. We're always discovering ourselves and stuff like that. So you know what I think, like I always say, truth is always evolving. So let us be whole. Let us allow the Lord to make us whole. Let's be hidden in him. Take it, yes, one day at a time. Somebody says we just have to be intentional and want to change, heal, and forgive. With Christ, all things are possible. Absolutely. And when we are found in him, when we allow him to just walk us through our process, he has his time set for the things and the people he wants to bring in our life, and then we don't have to work backwards this time. Get in the marriage and then start unpacking your baggage. We've already been doing that all along, so then I can sit down at the table with you, not on our first date. Okay, because on our first date, I don't have to be dating you to marry you. Okay, not on our first date. Let me clarify. Okay, because some people talk about intentional dating. I'm all for it. But let me tell you something. You don't have to go on the first date and be thinking marriage. Is he the one? Okay. Of course, clearly define your expectations, and then explore what theirs are. But yes, listen, we are discovering ourselves daily. So when you sit down at the table after a couple of dates or whatever, and you start having a discussion and you think, maybe I've connected with somebody I could see myself doing life with. This is when you sit down and you really start talking, maybe a little bit before you get to that point. You say, look, let me tell you what kind of crazy I am. Look, let me tell you, my elevator go up to about the 7th floor. At night, maybe only the 3rd. And look, hey, sometimes I do all kinds of stuff. Sometimes I have all kinds, but look, sometimes I'm a mess. I'm all over the place. Okay. I'm strong. Sometimes you have to tell me, put me in my place because I'm very opinionated and all. Hey, you just go ahead and put it out there. But don't put it out there in the sense of, okay, I put it out there. Now, will you have me? No. Do you choose me? Because here at the end of the day, they don't have to. That goes back to what we said earlier. It's all about choices. They don't have to choose us. But if you don't, we just saved ourselves some time and some energy and some money, and we can move forward. So what I'm going to do now, somebody said just have fun. Absolutely. And this is why I keep saying this. Quit letting people define. I got to get off here because I said last time, I cannot believe I did like an hour and 30 minutes. So I'm going to try to calm myself and to carry a little bit over for next time. But I just want to say that, everything's not definitive. It just isn't. Everything isn't definitive. Somebody said I'm spoiled. Hey, that's what I'm saying. When you can talk about you can talk about, what your things are. And we all have a bit of quirkiness. I think, like me, sometimes I think my humor is on point. And then other times I'm probably just a little bit slow. Like I probably make myself laugh more than I make somebody else laugh. But you know what? That's okay. Like I don't feel like now it's like I'm in a line and I'm saying, gosh, ooh, pick me, pick me, pick me. Oh, can you pick me? No. Because I've been by myself for some time, and it's so healthy. This is why a lot of times we really we are afraid of that. Especially after you come out of a relationship, the first thing you want to do is get in another one. No, honey. Be still. Sit down somewhere. And so because I've had some time to be by myself, I I'm not so hard up that I would say, well, will somebody pick me up, please? You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying I haven't had moments, but like, that's my prayer. It's like, God, really help me to keep my eyes on you. Okay? Don't be around here trying to round up nothing. Because let me tell you something. You get what you pay for. I think that might be a good place to end right there. You get what you pay for. Okay? If you pay cheap, and if his price, if what you make him pay is cheap, then that's what you're going to get. And so, Lord, help us to figure out what's causing us to be thirsty. Figure out what's causing us to be hungry. Figure out what's causing us to, God, every man we see in church or we see something, you be through the drive-through line and the man is being nice to you and all of a sudden you thinking, oh, God, you see y'all with children. Listen, honey, listen. It is really not that serious. You know what I mean? And see, if we're that insane, I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say something a little nicer. But I'm going to just say that. If we're that insane in the beginning, it's all downhill from there. Okay? He might well go on and order the straight jacket from Amazon because that's exactly what he's going to need in about 3 months. in about 3 months. He can go ahead and kiss his life goodbye. Okay? Because that's what we do. We get enmeshed. Okay? In these relationships. So, again, we'll continue with this. With my next session, we're going to continue this series. So the work begins with us. Let's deal with us. Sit down with those uncomfortable things. Just think about what are some recurring themes in your life. What are some things that keep showing up in your dreams, showing up in your job, showing up in your dynamics with people. And, one of the things I figured, and I don't even really know that I want to share it, but I'm going to share it because I encourage transparency from everybody else. I figured out for myself, there's a really weird feeling that I get, and it's been coming up a lot lately, and that's how I know that the Lord is saying to me, okay, now you're mature enough, and we can move on past this. And one of the things is that I used to be a runner, in the sense that, I wasn't like that in my marriage, but in other scenarios in my life, I was a runner. When things got complicated, when things got kind of intense, when I felt like I was seen, discovered, found out, like you really saw me in raw, rare form, I didn't trust that people could handle that side of me or could handle me in that capacity. So what I would do is I would run. I didn't know how to take the relationship, and what I actually heard this at the Orange Conference for youth leaders, but it was talking about learn how to live in the tension. I didn't know how to do that in relationships. So when it got to an uncomfortable place, I won't say that, because I did know how to do it in relationships, just not the other relationships. Okay. But when it got to that point, I was ready to book it. No, we're not going to sit down and have a conversation that was just so unbearable for me. We're not going to talk about how we can fix it. You hurt me. You hurt my feelings. I am done. I'm done with you. We can't work it out. Okay. There ain't nothing to talk about. I don't even want to talk. And that's how I was. I ain't like something. I didn't think, especially if I didn't think it would be fixed, or if I felt like you didn't see my value or something like that. Nah, I ain't putting out that. Since then, I have had to learn, that you have to leave margin. But again, the only reason I learned that is because I had to sit down. Through my experiences, I've had to sit down and I've had to say, what is it when you get uncomfortable? This thing keeps showing up now. When you get uncomfortable, what is it that makes you want to run? Where is this coming from? What are you afraid of? And I think maybe I was afraid of being attached. And I think sometimes still now, being attacked, being afraid of being misunderstood, being afraid that, I don't have the capacity to love unconditionally, or the other person can't love me unconditionally. And so it's just better for us to just call it quits. The funny thing, this is just wired to me now, as I was sitting here and I said that, and it's like, I know that was the Lord dropped it in my spirit. That's the same dynamic I saw in my ex-husband. And I know God was showing it to me through him. He was showing me through him. And I think what we have to understand is, that's what I said earlier, these things in our life, we don't always need to pray them away. Sometimes you got to sit down and say, God, what is life teaching me? What are you wanting to teach me right now? What are you wanting to teach me right now? And so, on that note, I am learning to be still, to leave margin, to be more flexible, and when that stuff comes up, I sit down and I do what I call, I dispute my thoughts. And there's a theory about that. It's REBT method. You can look that up. It's really good. This really deals a bit with disputing your thoughts before you react. And sometimes you will still react before you actually get through this disputing process. But the more you practice the habit of doing it, we'll begin to dispute first and then respond. And so, like I said, as we do the work, as we sit down and we're comfortable, enough to where we can just get naked before the Lord, and Lord, this bothers me, or, this is something in my life that I'm really dealing with, or this keeps coming up. Why does this keep showing up? We can sit down, we can be still, we can let the Lord walk us through that, and then we can move forward. Okay? We can move forward. And then not worry about, I'm crossing over the Red Sea. Did my enemies really drown? Or are they just waiting for this water to for everything to die down so that they can jump out, boo, and get me again? And that's how we live. Whether it was whatever patterns in our life, now we want it to be destroyed once and for all. And that's our prayer. But, we can't control the process all the time. Okay. So sit down and let the Lord walk us through so we can see our enemies drowned in the Red Sea, and we can really have the victory. We can move forward and not only just be free ourselves, but we can free other people. But again, the work begins with you. It begins with me. Okay. So if anyone has any questions now, I'll take some questions before we get off. Does anybody have anything? Okay, so we're gonna I'm gonna close with this. Want everybody to kind of do this, and if you want to inbox, you don't have to involve me in it. You can do it on your own and just keep it for your own purposes. But these are the things I want. It's called a life balance inventory, and it was taken from www.journaltherapy.com. Journaltherapy.com. So it's called a life balance inventory, and it says, okay, you're going to choose an area in your life. And from there, what you're going to do is you're going to ask yourself these questions. Where am I now? Okay, that's number one. Number two says, where do I want to be? And then by when? And then number three, what are the action steps I can take to get there? What are the action steps that I can take to get there? So we learned one tonight. We can sit down and we can do the self-inventory, and we can begin to allow the Lord to walk us through our own process and reveal those things that are still rooted and embedded in us that need to be uprooted, and those patterns and things that no longer serve us, so we can begin making different decisions, right? Okay, and then it says, what are the action steps I can take to get there? Finally, it says, what first step can I take now? That's really important. The action steps, that's basically going to be giving maybe a laid out version of what you need to do. But right now, change it can be overwhelming. So choose one first step you can take now. One first step you can take now. And I want to hear about your process. You can always email me at angel@thedreambuildersfoundation.com. Again, that's angel@thedreambuildersfoundation.com. You can go to my page at Jumpstart DBIF on Facebook, and you can send a message there. Or you can go to my website, www.thedreambuildersfoundation.com. Go to my Contact Us page, and you can send me a message there. But I want us to move forward knowing that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. God, before he formed us in the belly of our mothers, he knew us. And let us just get back to being who he's called us to be. Allow him to strip off those labels and reveal your best self to you. So that when you lay down and we close our eyes and it's for the last time, we can say, I lived well because my life was hidden in Christ. I lived well because I know that I lived well and I served my purpose because my life was hidden in Christ. Okay? Love you guys. I hope you have an awesome day tomorrow. If you decide to go to church, remember, it's always a great place for accountability, just to go and hear the word, and also to learn to serve. That's another way of being able to get out of some of the mess we're in, is get the focus off of ourselves. Serve, connect with your local ministry, get healing, get counsel, and begin to plug in and see, where am I useful? But don't let that distract you from the work you need to do for yourself. Okay? All right, everybody, have a good night, and I'll see you again real soon.